Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by once again. This time I'm coming at you to review a movie from I want to say it was from the late 80s, early 90s or whatever. Probably late 80s. It might have came out in like 1990 on video or whatever. I'm coming at you to review the movie Parents. Now this movie, I think my dad and I probably rented this back relatively recently after it came out on video because my dad, having grown up in the 50s and stuff, was always interested in, movies that, in TV shows and stuff like that, that took place back then because it was his childhood and stuff. So just like with the 80s and 90s for me, I kind of, gravitate towards those decades. He does with, the 50s and stuff as well. So I'm pretty sure we rented this movie, and the cover's kind of cool. It's got Randy Quaid, of course, in it, and of course, we knew him at the time. He was what's his name, Cousin Eddie, I think, for the twice for the first vacation movie and the Christmas one and stuff. So we knew of Randy Quaid at the time, of course, and I think he's pretty much the only actor in the movie that really is anyone to more or less or whatever. So the cover was kind of cool. I think most video stores probably had this movie in the horror section, and to be honest, I don't even know what the hell genre I guess you'd probably put it in the horror. I don't really even know what the hell genre this movie is, to be honest. It's the cover is kind of cool. It makes it seem like the cover does accurately capture the feeling of the movie. It's like a horror movie that's got a comedic feel to it, or a comedic movie with horrific undertones, or it's like, I don't know. The cover does capture the feel of the movie. I will say that. And also another thing I should say is back when Lionsgate started their restaurant video series on Blu-ray, this is actually available on Blu-ray. And I was able to stream for free what I can only assume is the actual Blu-ray transfer, and it did look, I streamed this movie for free recently, and it's the first time that I've seen it probably since 1990 or 89, whenever we would have rented it. And what I can only presume was the streamed version of the Blu-ray transfer does look really good if you're a fan of this movie and haven't gotten around to picking up the Blu-ray yet. So I will say it does look good. I'd forgotten, having only seen it once. I'm pretty sure we saw this, back when it came out, and having only seen it once, long time ago, I didn't remember pretty much anything about it. I remember, I only saw it once, so that kind of shows you what I thought of it at the time, and my opinion about it hasn't changed. It is a relatively short movie, I think just over 80 minutes. So at least it's got that going for it. Usually if a movie's not too great, I'm not too keen on it being necessarily that long, so the not too greatness can last as little as time as possible. But this movie, one thing it does well is it takes place, I guess, in the mid-50s or something like that, mid to late 50s. And one thing this movie does well, I guess the thing that it does the best, is it does capture fantastically that era, with the fashions and the architecture and the interior design, and of course the vehicles and the music. And I want to say that there's some old songs in here, but I want to say they're potentially re-recorded for this movie. I'm not exactly sure if these are the original old songs or if they're re-recordings of the old songs. Maybe you can use an old song if you re-record it or something and you don't have to pay royalties. I don't know how that works, but there's a couple old songs in this movie, and like I say, they could potentially be re-recorded for this movie. But probably the greatest thing this movie does is just capture that feeling of mid to late 50s very, 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 very well. And basically this movie's about this Randy Quaid character and his wife who live in this, kind of Leave It to Beaver house, and it's just perfect life or whatever, and they've got this little boy who could be, Bud Cort Jr. He looks a lot like, the potential, if Bud Cort had a son, this boy looks a lot like I would imagine Bud Cort Jr. looking like. The kid, I will say that, I think in a lot of ways the kid kind of steals the show. I think the kid does an excellent, excellent, excellent job in this movie, and is kind of, for me, I don't know if he's kind of the best, one of the best things about it, or like so many times is the case in a movie like this where you've got a situation, a family situation that might be a little goofy. The kid portrays the eyes of the audience, the audience going in the relatively, normal or whatever audience going into this goofy tale of these goofy parents who are, we don't know exactly what's up with them. Something's off, but we don't know exactly what. Is being seen through the innocence of this kid's eyes. So this kid's innocent, this kid's innocent eyes, this character that kids plays, his innocent eyes are, the viewer sees the movie through his innocent eyes. And one thing I think is really, really dumb about this movie, it should have been, the story seems like a half-hour frickin', Twilight Zone episode stretched into 80 minutes. Like it just takes, it's got way too little to say for as long as the movie is, and the irony is the movie's not even really that long, but that's exactly my point. This story is like a 30-minute, 25-minute, 30-minute tops kind of a story stretched way too long. And what's so dumb about this movie is it thinks it's almost like the movie takes place in the mid to late 50s, and it's almost like the filmmakers are from the mid to late 50s because they're so, I don't know what, they're so behind with the times, like I don't know, they put all this stuff in your, these subtle hints of things in your face about hinting towards whatever, his parents and cannibalism and his parents eating people or whatever, that you understand exactly what they're doing like 15 minutes into the movie, but yet the movie takes the whole running time of the movie to basically divulge what you already figured out 15 minutes into it. And that's my biggest complaint with this movie is, the payoff at the end of the movie is, oh, they're cannibals, and it's just like, they're eating people. And I was like, yeah, I knew that. Like 15 minutes in, you could have ended it 20 or 25 minutes into the movie. So that's basically what this movie is. It spends 80 minutes or so slowly giving these, this kid, the audience, aka this kid, or also, you know what I mean, the audience / this kid, these subtle hints that, it's like the kid, the family's always eating meat or whatever, and I think they always have meat leftovers or something like that. They're always eating meat or whatever, and the kid's just, I don't know, doesn't necessarily think about it, but then at some point he thinks about it, and this kid ends up meeting this, this girl, I think in his class or whatever. I think this family is like new to the area or something like that, and dad works at this, I don't know what, this government facility I can't remember, it's like some chemical plant or something. And one of the cuter scenes in the movie I thought was, a little bit of truth in there, and kind of done in a comedic way, which is also kind of sad, where it's kind of like, it's like he's doing some chemical work for the arms department, or the war department or something, because there's this really nasty scene that's kind of done tongue-in-cheek, where this, Randy Quaid character is, the father of this family is working on some kind of solution or whatever to spray, fly over, this area with planes and spray out of it, and it completely destroys the vegetation or whatever, so that, the people, can't grow food or whatever. And they're just kind of like, in true American fashion, they're just kind of like, ha ha ha, this will work great in countries we hate or the countries we want to destroy or whatever. And once again, that's just kind of a little bit of truth scribbled in there, because that's what, that's what the upper echelon bastards in America are doing. They just revel in figuring out ways to fuck up the rest of the world, and even, Americans themselves. And it's just like, oh, but I'm not gonna get off on that tangent. But that was actually one of the more enjoyable scenes in a perverse way, because it was just like, oh wow, that was the only time when the movie kind of veered from just hints and this and that of his parents being cannibals to actually something different. But like I said, this kid ends up meeting this girl in school. Oh, what I was saying earlier is that they're like new in town or whatever, and see, it seems like, I don't know if they're moving around all the time or something. I don't know, that doesn't really matter, but I don't know. I think this kid has nightmares or something too, because he probably sees stuff and maybe blocks it out. Like earlier on in the movie, he does go out in the middle of the night to the living room to get a drink of water, and there's this kind of disturbing scene where they do it in weird, blurred out picked images or grainy or some crap, where he sees his parents rolling around in the, in their underwear, rolling around on the floor in the living room with like just slime all over their faces. I don't know if it's in color like that moment, so I don't know if you know it's blood at the time. This is what I mean. Like, you know instantly that they're cannibals, but the movie, plays like, ooh, we're just giving you hints and stuff, and you probably haven't figured it out yet, but we'll tell you 80 minutes into the movie or whatever, 70. And it's just like, give me a break. So, I mean, I think this kid, because he sees stuff, maybe he represses it, he has nightmares about it, just living in this off house with these off mom and dad, this kid's kind of disturbed, and, halfway through the movie or whatever, he ends up with talking to the social worker woman, and, and one of the cooler scenes in the movie is later on in the second half, I would imagine, this movie, where she's, the parents are gone, and she and the kid, the kid takes her home to show, because I think the kid discovered at some point halfway through the movie or something, like a freezer, and he's not supposed to look in the freezer, a freezer in the basement where all these, human body parts are. I don't think they're like just arms and legs just like this. I think all the stuff's wrapped up in tinfoil or something. So I don't know how the kid knows it's human body parts if it's wrapped up in tinfoil or whatever. I don't think there's any just loose hands or whatever in baggies. I don't remember. But the kid, is telling the social worker what's going on. I don't think people really believe him. But maybe, maybe she does enough to, have the kid take her to the house and show her the freezer that, the body parts in or whatever. And one of the coolest scenes is when it's kind of like the only quote-unquote event scene, if you will, where of like any kind of horror element or whatever, where she's in the closet, and I think Randy Quaid, there's a scene where like a knife gets jabbed in the closet, those little slits that are like this, and the knife gets jabbed in there, and she grabs the knife and he pulls it out. And so there's a kind of a, I don't know, I would imagine she ends up being killed or whatever. So that's kind of, one of the standout scenes or whatever in the movie. But the movie as a whole is not that necessarily interesting. So then I don't know if it's 65, 70 minutes into the movie, it's like, oh, the big reveal that mom and dad are cannibals. And like I say, it's like, okay, yawn, like we already knew this 15 minutes into the movie, but whatever. And I don't remember. I will say that it was kind of cool when, it's revealed to the kid or whatever. There's this scene in the living room or the dining room where they got the kid at the table or whatever, and like the camera in the dining room stuff is rotating, so the back walls and the rest of the house is spinning. That was a cool stylistic element of the movie. It really gave that scene the added surrealness. I can speak the added surrealism. I think I just invented a word that the scene needed to make it even more goofy. All this info the kid is getting and makes his world spin or whatever. But I would imagine the kids or the parents end up. I don't even remember if the parents end up dying or not. All I know is that the kid is. I would imagine the parents end up dead somehow. I don't know how, because the kid, I should say, the young Bud Cort Jr. kid. In the movie ends up at the grandparents' house, and what I should say is, being a huge Friday 13th Final Chapter fan, the exterior at the very end of the movie, when they cut to the exterior, Grandpa and Grandma's house, it's the Jarvis house, the exterior from Final Chapter, which is really cool. And I don't think the interior scenes were filmed in there. I don't know. It could have been, but I can't confirm that or not. But at the very minimum. The exterior of the Jarvis house from Final Chapter was used for the grandparents' house, and of course in the end movie tag scene, if you will, the grandparents putting the boy to bed and put some meat or something on, I don't know, on the nightstand for him in case he gets hungry in the night or something. So it's just like that the grandparents were cannibals too, and it's just like, oh, give me a break. That's what I'm saying. It's like this kind of storyline and the way it's presented would have been a little more successful had it been done in the mid to late 50s. What's so ironic about this movie is it takes place in the mid to late 50s, but it also handles its subject matter as if it actually was done then. Like if you watch, so in a sense, not necessarily knowing that the audience, you see what I'm saying? Like the audiences in 1990 are going to catch on to things a lot quicker than possibly an audience in the mid to late 50s or whatever. So that's my biggest complaint with the movie. I will give Parents 1 star out of 4 stars just for having a really, really authentic and kind of fun, mid to late 50s feel to it. And Randy Quaid's kind of fun. Not in a big way. I mean, more creepy than anything. Of course, that's the point. I don't remember there being any like TNA in this movie or anything like that, which is always a bummer. But yeah, definitely not something I really never need to own. It's too bad because it's all, it's got such a pristine kind of fun, new Vestron video Blu-ray release of it, and it's just like, I don't like it, so I don't want to own it, but whatever. For all you people who do like it, you probably already own the Blu-ray release of it and stuff, which has got special features, of course. As always, feel free to let me know what you think of this movie in the comments. Have you seen it? Have you not? Why did you? Why have you not? And if you haven't, don't feel like you have to rush out and see it by any means, because as I said, in my opinion, it's really not much, unless maybe there are those of you out there who actually like more subtle kind of movies that take 80 minutes just to say one simple little plot point. I mean, I'm not saying that's a dumb way to make a movie. I'm just saying that I don't really, it's not something that I really enjoy. I don't really like movies that spend their whole running time just to get to an end point. Like, a movie should be interesting and enjoyable from start to finish. There's so many movies that are just like, spend the entire movie just trying to figure out something, and then they'll just figure out at the end, and it's just like, well, why not just make a short and well, that's because movies have to be a certain length, but I just hate when movies, just like this review, just go on and on and on, when all you gotta do is just to have something at the end just to reveal or whatever. And then when that happens, it's just like, oh, that's it. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this review, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.